What makes some people keep going when others stop? Why do some rise again after every fall, while others give up at the first sign of struggle? For centuries, we've called it talent, intelligence, or luck. But Angela Duckworth discovered something deeper, something quieter, more powerful, and more human. She calls it grit. Grit isn't about being fearless. It's about being faithful to your purpose, to your growth, to your long-term dream. It's the blend of passion and perseverance, the ability to love something so deeply that you're willing to struggle for it for years without applause. Angela Duckworth didn't start out studying success. She began as a teacher, trying to understand why some of her brightest students gave up and why others, less gifted, kept pushing forward. That question became her life's work. And through years of research, from classrooms to West Point, from spelling bees to corporate offices, she discovered a universal truth. What really drives success isn't genius, it's grit. In this book, she shows us that passion matters, that deliberate practice matters, that purpose and hope matter. But above all, that the ability to keep showing up day after day, year after year, matters most. Grit is not a finish line. It's a way of life. It's how ordinary people become extraordinary. It's how dreamers become doers and how effort transforms into excellence. So before we begin, take a breath. Think about something you once gave up on or something you're still chasing. This journey will remind you that it's not too late, that the path is long, but the reward is deep. Because the true power of grit isn't in never falling, it's in never staying down. Chapter 1, Showing Up. Every great journey begins with showing up. At West Point, the most elite military academy in America, every cadet arrives believing they have what it takes. They've spent years preparing, top grades, perfect fitness, leadership medals. But then comes the first 7 weeks, a test so brutal it's known simply as Beast. Wake up at 5 a.m., no weekends, no breaks, no contact with the outside world. Day after day, running, push-ups, marching, weapons, training, exhaustion, every weakness exposed, every excuse stripped away. And yet 1 in 5 of these extraordinary young people will quit. Why? They had the talent, they had the grades, but they didn't all have the same fire, the one that keeps burning when everything else goes dark. Angela Duckworth calls that fire grit. It's not about who's the smartest or who runs the fastest. It's about who refuses to give up when it hurts the most. In 2004, Duckworth gave those cadets a new test, not of talent but of perseverance. The results were stunning. Talent couldn't predict who survived Beast. Grit could. The ones who stayed weren't always the strongest or the brightest, but they had something deeper, a quiet, relentless strength that whispered, "I'm not done yet." Grit is passion that lasts. It's commitment through failure. It's love for the work itself, even when no one's watching and no one's clapping. It's what turns ordinary effort into extraordinary achievement. In life, talent may open the door, but grit decides who walks through it. Because showing up, again and again, when everyone else has gone home, that's where greatness begins. Chapter 2, Distracted by Talent. We love stories of effortless genius. The prodigy who picks up a violin at 4 and plays like a master. The young athlete who seems born to win. The entrepreneur who just had a gift. These stories captivate us because they make greatness look easy. But what if that obsession with talent blinds us? What if the secret to success has less to do with being gifted, and more to do with how hard you're willing to fight when things aren't easy? For generations, we've been told to admire talent. Schools test for it. Companies hire for it, coaches search for it, parents pray their children have it. But talent by itself has never guaranteed greatness. Angela Duckworth saw it firsthand. As a teacher, she met brilliant students who gave up too soon and others, not nearly as bright, who worked relentlessly until they mastered everything. The difference wasn't IQ, it was endurance. Duckworth calls this our natural bias for talent. We see someone succeed, and we assume it's because they're special. We ignore the invisible hours of effort, the repetition, the boredom, the failures they endured in silence. We confuse talent with effort, and in doing so, we forget that effort counts twice. once for getting better and again for turning potential into achievement. Talent is the spark, yes, but grit is the oxygen. Without it, the flame dies before it ever burns bright. Every person you admire, every champion, artist, and innovator, shares one thing: persistence through imperfection. They showed up when they were tired, they practiced when nobody watched, and they failed over and over until their success looked like talent. That's the illusion we all see. Effort disguised as ease, persistence hidden behind polish, grit mistaken for genius. So the next time you find yourself admiring someone's talent, look closer. Behind every effortless performance is 1,000 hours of unseen struggle. And that's the truth Angela Duckworth uncovered. Talent matters, but grit matters more. Chapter 3, Effort Counts Twice. We all want to know the secret of success. Why some people rise above challenges while others give up. Why some reach their potential and others fall short. For centuries, we've been obsessed with talent, believing it's the foundation of greatness. But Angela Duckworth discovered something deeper, something more reliable, something that multiplies talent instead of replacing it. It's effort counts twice. Talent is how quickly your skills improve when you put in effort. Achievement is what happens when you use those skills and keep applying effort again and again. Think of it like this: effort builds skill, then effort turns that skill into success. The same ingredient applied twice. That's what separates the dreamers from the doers. A gifted pianist who doesn't practice may sound impressive at 10 years old, but the one who practices daily, year after year, becomes world-class. A naturally athletic student may dominate early, but the one who keeps training after failure becomes unstoppable. Effort is the great equalizer. It doesn't care about where you start, it only cares that you keep moving. Duckworth's research proved this again and again. From classrooms to cadet schools, from sports fields to corporate offices, the most consistent predictor of success wasn't IQ, background, or luck. It was effort over time. Talent without effort is potential wasted. Effort without talent still moves mountains. And effort applied to talent, that's where mastery begins. Every hour you practice, every failure you learn from, every time you show up when you don't feel like it, you are doubling the value of your potential. You are compounding greatness. That's why the gritty eventually outperform the gifted, because grit keeps going long after talent gets tired. In the end, it's not about how fast you learn or how bright you start. It's about how long you're willing to endure, how deeply you're willing to care, and how hard you're willing to try again and again. Effort counts twice, once for building your skill and again for making it matter. Chapter 4, How Gritty Are You? What does it really mean to be gritty? Is it something you're born with or something you build? In this chapter, Angela Duckworth invites us to ask a simple but powerful question: how gritty are you? Not as a label, but as a mirror, a way to understand how we respond when effort meets resistance. Grit, she explains, isn't about intensity, it's about consistency. It's not how hard you start, but how long you stay. And to measure that, she created the grit scale, a tool that doesn't ask how smart or talented you are, but how much you persevere. Questions like, do you finish what you start? Do you stay focused on long-term goals, even when things get boring, difficult, or uncertain? Your answers reveal something deeper than skill. They show your relationship with commitment. Duckworth's research found that the people who score highest on grit don't always have the highest talent. But they do share one thing: they keep showing up. They stay in the game when others walk away. They learn, adjust, and push through the noise. Grit is not all or nothing. It's not a fixed score. It's a mindset you can strengthen like a muscle. Every time you resist the urge to quit, every time you choose the long game over the shortcut, you're building grit. And what's fascinating is this: even small increases in grit, small shifts in persistence, can create exponential change in what you achieve. Because the longer you stay, the more you learn and the more powerful you become. So, how gritty are you? Don't think of it as a test. Think of it as a compass, a reminder of where you stand and where you can grow. Because grit isn't about comparing yourself to others, it's about committing to your future self. Every setback is a chance to prove that you can still keep going. Every challenge is an invitation to grow stronger. And the moment you decide that quitting is no longer your default, that's the moment grit begins. Chapter 5: How Grit Grows. Grit isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. Like muscle, it grows stronger the more you use it, and it weakens when you don't. When Angela Duckworth began studying high performers, soldiers, athletes, entrepreneurs, and artists, she realized something powerful. Grit wasn't fixed. It evolved. It deepened over time, shaped by purpose, practice, and passion. We often think people are just built different, but no one starts out unbreakable. Grit comes from struggle, from failing, adjusting, and coming back again. Every setback is a small weight that strengthens your resolve. At first, grit feels like survival. You push because you have to, you endure because the alternative is giving up. But over time, grit transforms from force into fuel. You stop fighting the pain, you start learning from it. You stop asking, how long will this take? And start asking, how far can I go? This is how grit grows from the outside in, from discipline to devotion, from effort to identity. And like a tree, grit doesn't grow overnight. It takes root in your habits, it stretches through your challenges, and it reaches upward through your belief that tomorrow can be better than today. People who grow their grit tend to share the same pattern: interest, practice, purpose, hope. Interest gives you curiosity, that spark to begin. Practice gives you improvement, the discipline to persist. Purpose gives you direction, the reason behind the effort. And hope gives you resilience, the faith that your struggle matters. Together, they form the roots of perseverance. Grit grows every time you show up when it's easier to quit, every time you choose growth over comfort, every time you chase meaning over applause. You don't find grit, you cultivate it. You feed it with effort, water it with purpose, and protect it from doubt until it becomes a part of who you are. Chapter 6: Grit Grows Through Interest. Every story of grit begins with curiosity. Before discipline, before purpose, before hope, there is interest. The spark that makes you lean forward, that small voice that whispers, "I like this." Passion doesn't begin as a fire. It begins as a flicker. Most people expect to find their life purpose in one grand moment of revelation, but the truth is gentler and slower. Passion grows like a friendship. You discover it through time, through exploration, through play. Angela Duckworth found that every gritty person she interviewed shared this one trait: they loved what they did. Not every part of it, not every day. But as a whole, their work fascinated them. Even when it was hard, their curiosity pulled them back. Interest is what keeps you experimenting when others get bored. It's what keeps you asking questions when others give up. It's the seed of long-term passion. But interest doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's nurtured by exposure, by encouragement, by small wins. Teachers, mentors, parents, even moments of chance can light the first spark. And once it's lit, grit begins to grow. You see, people who quit often do so not because they're lazy, but because they haven't found what truly fascinates them. When you care deeply about something, effort no longer feels like sacrifice. It becomes devotion. The gritty don't chase every opportunity, they chase the ones that make them come alive. They practice endlessly not because they have to, but because they want to. Interest transforms repetition into purpose. That's why the journey toward mastery must begin with curiosity. Before you ask, "How hard should I work?" ask, "What makes me lose track of time?" Before you seek greatness, seek fascination. Because the first step to growing grit isn't working harder, it's caring deeper. Chapter 7: Grit Grows Through Practice. After interest comes practice, the daily discipline of trying to do something better than you did yesterday. The heart of grit is not intensity, it's consistency. Not about one great leap, but about thousands of small steps taken with purpose. Mastery doesn't come from passion alone. It grows from the quiet moments when no one is watching, when you choose to keep going, when progress feels invisible, and when failure becomes feedback instead of defeat. Angela Duckworth calls this deliberate practice. It's not just doing something again and again, it's doing it with attention, with correction, with intention. Every repetition is a question. How can I make this better? Deliberate practice is uncomfortable. It demands focus. It forces you to confront your weaknesses, not hide from them. But that's exactly where growth lives. The best in every field, musicians, athletes, scientists, all share this same secret. They don't just work hard, they work smart. They don't just put in hours, they put in quality hours. Effort is multiplied when it's guided by reflection. Practice without focus creates exhaustion. Practice with purpose creates excellence. Every time you push past your limits, you expand them. Every time you correct your mistakes, you strengthen your skill. Grit grows in those repetitions, the invisible ones that compound into mastery. It's not talent that transforms you. It's the decision to keep refining your craft, even when no one sees the effort. So practice deliberately. Seek feedback. Embrace the grind. Every session, every hour, every failure, they're all shaping you into someone unstoppable. Because grit isn't about never falling. It's about rising every day with the same quiet conviction. I will improve. Chapter 8. Grit grows through purpose. Passion begins with interest, but it matures with purpose. It's one thing to love what you do, it's another to believe what you do matters. Purpose is the bridge between personal satisfaction and collective meaning. It's the moment when your work stops being just about you and starts being about something greater. Angela Duckworth discovered that gritty people don't just work hard for themselves. They work hard because they feel a responsibility to others. Their drive isn't fueled only by ambition, but by contribution. They see their work as a way to make the world just a little bit better. This sense of purpose transforms effort into devotion. It gives meaning to repetition, dignity to struggle, and beauty to persistence. When your goal serves others, every challenge feels lighter because you're no longer carrying it alone. A teacher who stays late to help one more student. A nurse who shows up for another shift. A builder who pours his energy into creating something that will outlast him. That's what purpose looks like, a quiet, steady, selfless grit in motion. Purpose also protects you. When the applause fades, when motivation dips, when no one believes in you, your purpose whispers, keep going. It turns effort into legacy. It transforms ordinary work into impact. People who lack purpose eventually burn out. People with purpose burn brighter, because their energy doesn't just come from desire, it comes from meaning. Music swells, cinematic strings and soft percussion blend. Purpose grows when you ask better questions, not just what do I want, but who do I help, not how do I win, but why does this matter? The moment your passion connects with service, your grit becomes unstoppable. Grit grows through purpose, because meaning sustains what motivation can't. Chapter 9. Grit grows through hope. Hope is the final ingredient of grit, the quiet belief that no matter what happens, things can get better. It's not blind optimism or wishful thinking. It's the conviction that your actions matter, that your effort changes outcomes, and that tomorrow can still be shaped by what you do today. Angela Duckworth calls this the hope that gets you back up. Because real hope isn't the kind you feel when everything's going right. It's the kind you build when everything falls apart. Hope keeps you anchored when life feels uncertain. It whispers when everything else is silent. It tells you to try again after failure, to get up after rejection, to stay steady when the road feels endless. People with grit don't avoid pain, they face it with faith. They believe the struggle has meaning, that progress might be invisible but not impossible. Their hope isn't naive, it's earned through experience. Duckworth found that hopeful people have a simple mindset. I have control. They don't see failure as fate, they see it as feedback. Every obstacle becomes information. Every setback becomes direction. Hope transforms helplessness into learning. When you believe you can't change your circumstances, effort stops. But when you believe effort matters, grit grows. That belief that your choices still count is the foundation of resilience. Hope is what keeps you practicing when you're tired. It's what makes you believe in meaning when progress slows. It's what lets you look at the impossible and say, not yet. Because hope isn't about expecting success, it's about expecting growth. Hope is the light that never goes out, even in the darkest room. It's the belief that effort will find a way. Chapter 10, Parenting for Grit. We often wonder, how do we raise grit? How do we help someone become strong without breaking, disciplined without losing joy, ambitious without losing heart? Angela Duckworth believes grit can be taught, not through lectures, but through love and example. Children don't learn grit by being told to be tough. They learn it by watching toughness done with compassion, by seeing their parents, teachers, or mentors persist through challenges, not perfectly, but honestly. In Duckworth's research, she discovered what she calls wise parenting. It's the balance of warmth and structure, love without limits and standards without cruelty. Wise parents don't shield their children from difficulty, they guide them through it. They say, I know this is hard, I'm here, but I believe you can do this. That belief becomes the seed of confidence that grows into perseverance. On the playing fields, in classrooms, and at home, grit is not imposed, it's inspired. Kids develop perseverance when they feel both supported and challenged. Too much freedom leads to chaos. Too much control kills curiosity. But the right mix, warmth and demand, builds strength of character. The goal isn't to raise perfect children. It's to raise resilient ones who fall and rise, who fail and try again, who know that struggle isn't punishment but preparation. Parenting for grit isn't about pushing harder. It's about standing beside someone long enough for them to find their own fire. It's teaching by example that effort matters more than excuses. That character counts more than comfort. Every "you can do this," every "try again," every "I believe in you" becomes a whisper of hope that lasts long after the moment is gone. Chapter 11, The Playing Fields of Grit. The real classroom of grit isn't a lab or a lecture hall. It's the soccer field, the music studio, the debate room, the places where effort meets resistance, and character is quietly shaped. Angela Duckworth calls these spaces the playing fields of grit. They are where young people learn the truth that persistence beats perfection, and that discipline is the path to freedom. Across thousands of interviews, Duckworth found a consistent pattern. The young adults who developed grit didn't just study, they trained. They stuck with structured, demanding activities for years. Sports, music, theater, volunteer programs, all of them built the same muscles: consistency, focus, and follow-through. Grit doesn't grow from comfort. It grows when you commit to something that's hard and stay long enough to get good at it. Whether it's early morning practice, late-night rehearsals, or one more season after a tough loss, every repetition teaches endurance. Duckworth's data showed that students who spent years in a demanding extracurricular were far more likely to thrive later in life. Why? Because those activities demanded commitment. They had rules, goals, coaches, feedback, the same ingredients that prepare you for the challenges of the real world. The playing fields of grit teach lessons no textbook can. They teach you to handle failure with grace, to take feedback without ego, to show up even when you'd rather stay home. They teach you that success doesn't come from talent alone. It comes from showing up again and again, long after motivation fades. Grit isn't taught by talking about it. It's trained by doing. And these fields, the soccer pitch, the orchestra pit, the classroom project, the startup garage, are the training grounds of character. When you finish something hard, when you cross a finish line you almost didn't reach, something changes inside you. You start to see yourself as someone who finishes what they start. That identity, that self-story, becomes the foundation of grit. So if you want to raise or become a gritty person, find a playing field. Find something structured, challenging, and meaningful, and stay. Long enough for effort to become pride. Chapter 12, A Culture of Grit. Grit doesn't just live inside individuals. It lives in the spaces between them. It shows up in families that celebrate effort, in teams that learn from failure, in classrooms and companies where persistence is normal and giving up feels strange. That shared expectation is what Angela Duckworth calls a culture of grit. A culture of grit begins with language. Leaders talk about practice more than talent, progress more than perfection, learning more than looking smart. They make effort visible, they praise resilience, and they tell stories of people who kept going when it would have been easier to stop. In gritty cultures, mistakes aren't hidden, they're studied. Feedback is honest, standards are high, and support is real. People are pushed, but they're not alone. They're challenged, but they're also believed in. The message is consistent. We do hard things here, and we do them together. Traditions also matter. Rituals that mark milestones, debriefs after tough attempts, weekly shout-outs for perseverance. These rhythms turn values into habits. Over time, the group identity shifts from "we want to win" to "we refuse to quit." This kind of culture doesn't protect people from difficulty. It prepares them for it. It trains the response to setbacks, not panic but problem-solving, not shame but learning, not isolation but support. And when enough people live that way, grit becomes contagious. Leaders are the thermostat. They don't just set goals, they set the emotional climate. When leaders model curiosity, invite critique, and keep showing up after losses, they teach everyone that resilience is who we are, not just what we do. Ask of every room you enter, what do we celebrate here? Do we celebrate flawless outcomes, or do we celebrate relentless improvement? Do we reward natural ability, or do we reward those who come early, stay late, and help others get better? Culture answers those questions long before anyone speaks. A culture of grit turns personal perseverance into collective power. It is the soil where interest deepens, practice compounds, purpose expands, and hope endures. Build that soil, and the people inside it will grow taller than they ever imagined. Chapter 13. Conclusion: Living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. Life isn't a sprint. It's a marathon. A long, uneven journey where the finish line keeps moving and the real race is with yourself. Grit, Angela Duckworth reminds us, is the strength to keep running long after the world tells you to stop. It's the courage to stay in the race even when no one's cheering, and the patience to keep improving when progress feels invisible. Every sprinter has a burst of energy, a moment of speed and brilliance. But the gritty know that greatness doesn't come from bursts, it comes from endurance, from steady, stubborn, unglamorous persistence. They don't chase quick wins, they build slow victories. To live with grit is to accept that success is rarely instant. It's to wake up each day and do what matters even when no one notices. It's to love the process more than the prize. The journey becomes the reward because grit isn't about finishing fast. It's about finishing strong. Grit means running through the pain, through the boredom, through the doubt. It's falling and then standing taller. It's trusting that each small step, each deliberate effort, each quiet moment of persistence adds up, even when you can't yet see how. And that's the secret. Grit isn't just about what you achieve, it's about who you become in the process. The act of enduring shapes you. The act of caring deeply, trying consistently, and failing forward transforms you. The gritty aren't superhuman. They're simply unwilling to let comfort define them. They've learned that meaning lives inside effort. That love for something worth doing, day after day, is more powerful than any momentary burst of talent. Angela Duckworth closes her journey with one lesson that echoes through every story, every study, every life she's touched. Greatness isn't a gift. It's a decision. A daily choice to keep showing up, keep learning, and keep believing that the long road is worth it. So live life like it's a marathon. Run your own race. Pace yourself with passion. Rest when needed, but never stop moving forward. Because grit is not about how fast you go, it's about how far you're willing to keep going.